segment. But I am so elated to have special guests here with me today. And the first guest that I would like to introduce, his name is Monroe Wellborn. He is, he'll be able to tell his own story. But what Monroe is going to represent is the parent who was detached or disconnected from his daughter, and he's going to be able to talk about the psychological things that he and his daughter went through. So at this time, put your hands together and let us welcome Monroe Wellborn. Thank you so much for coming in today to tell your story. You have a very interesting story, but I thank God for your transparency with me and willing to share. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Originally, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. Grew up there, born and raised. Great family. As a young man, I decided to start developing traits and walking on a different path as the one that I was raised to be on. Due to some terrible decisions, it led me to a 15-year stint of incarceration. Since that time, I've been home. I've relocated to Columbus, Ohio. I've completed my degree. I now work for the same department that I've done my time for. And I'm working diligently to try to change the narrative and help everybody see that at the end of the day, just because you made a mistake, you're not a mistake.
Oh, that's awesome. That's very awesome. So I'm going to ask a question that I know everybody wants to know. What did you do to get 15 years?
I was involved in drugs and illegal activities. At some point, a drug situation had turned sour. Someone lost their life as a result. I ended up getting convicted of involuntary manslaughter. To say the least, I know a lot about that night, and there's a lot of things that I'm not proud of about that night. I turned myself in, I pled guilty to the charge, and I've just been doing everything I can to atone from that situation moving forward. It's nothing that I can take back. The experience, though, has made me who I am now. From the experience, I've become a better person.
It sounds like you've taken full responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now speak to us a little bit, because today we're talking about abandonment issues.
Yes, ma'am.
So at the time that you were given a 15-year sentence, I understand that you were 23, so you were still a young man yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
How old was your daughter?
She was 6 months years old.
She was 6 years old?
6 months.
6 months old. Okay,
Yes.
So can you speak to us a little bit about the effects that it had on her growing up without a father?
When I came home, it was rough. As I was doing my time, she was so much younger. So the closer it got for me to come home, she had developed feelings. She had developed a narrative. She had been raised by her mother. I suspect that her mother did the best she can do under those circumstances. I contributed from afar via letters, phone calls, money orders, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like the personal contact. One of the things that she had told me was, you're never at the father-daughter dance. And that was something that really spoke to how she felt.
Yes.
At some point, I can sing praises of myself, other people can sing praises of me. However, it can't be about me and what I'm doing to better myself. It's ultimately what I'm going to do to help her have a better life moving forward.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become about me any longer. It becomes about her and the things that she shared with me about how she felt about my incarceration.
Okay.
So,
and before we get into how she felt about your incarceration,
Yes, ma'am.
speak to us about how you felt being taken away from your little girl. She was only 6 months old. So speak as far as the parents.
I wasn't taken. I gave myself away. Had I not partaken in the actions, then I would have never had to go to the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. So that's part of the narrative that we've got to change. Society didn't say, we're tired of you being out here trying to be a parent. I did things that led society to have to enforce the rules. So I gave myself to DRC, and I provided myself with a situation for my daughter to where she wouldn't have her dad. And so that's something that I've got to own and work on in terms of helping people understand that a lot of times as offenders or whatever you would like to address it as, we get into a narrative of institutional thinking that says, well, they took me away and they did this. They didn't do anything. It was my actions that led to the incarceration.
That's good.
So I had to work on that and get to a place where I was comfortable with accepting full responsibilities for the role that I played in being an absentee parent.
Yes.
So while I was away, I had to, like you said in your monologue, I had to look in the mirror outside of the skin and say, who are you? I gave up opportunities. I was well educated. I was a great athlete, but I also had addiction issues. I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to a cycle. I was addicted to a lifestyle, and it was toxic. It was a toxic lifestyle. So
let me just interject.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so you were living a toxic lifestyle, but I also heard you say that you veered away from how you were actually raised. What made you take that turn?
your environment can shape you one of two ways. It can steer you away, or it can bring you more in. And I allowed myself to be brought further into the things that I saw around me. There was money, and it was fast money, and it was a fast pace, and there were things going on that I didn't want to face from the standpoint of people were telling me, like, this is going to be the end result. But I always felt like not me.
It wasn't going to be you.
It wasn't going to be me. And I felt like I was in control. The whole time, the cycle itself was in control.
Did having a 6-month-old daughter deter you at all? I mean, what were your thoughts about having a child at home and the things that you were involved in? Or was she a consideration?
She couldn't have been a consideration, or I wouldn't have been doing what I was doing. And that's just the God's honest truth. It wouldn't be fair for me to sit up here and say, yeah, I was considering her. I wasn't. Because here's the thing. Material things are what you're after when you're doing that, okay? You get caught up in it. My daughter didn't know who Jordan was when she came out of her womb. She doesn't know who Ralph Lauren is at that age.
Yeah.
That's stuff that we do to make us feel good. As long as a kid has a change of clothes, a full belly, heat when it's cold,
Yes.
air when it's hot, kids will be fine.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
We, as parents, are so selfish at times because it makes me feel good to say, well, I bought my daughter this, or I bought my son that. They don't know.
Yeah.
So then when you get to a place where you can't provide because this is what you've instilled in them, then you start taking actions that are less than conducive to what society says you should do. And so therefore, before my daughter was even born, I was saying, well, my kid will have this, and my kid will have that. My kid wasn't here, and my kid didn't even know what these things were.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
you created the lifestyle.
I created the whole thing. It was a beast that I created, and then I couldn't tame it any longer.
Okay.
So I went to prison, and I just had to look in the mirror and ask myself some questions about myself. And I had to come to grips with, I have addictive personality issues.
Okay. Have you always had them outside of the drugs, like addicted personality type?
Actually, I realized, and I didn't go to therapy or anything when I was incarcerated. This was all self-work. You said you have to put it in the work.
Yes.
So I was putting in work on myself, and I realized that it's always been there. I was addicted to sweets.
Okay.
I was addicted to hanging out.
Yep.
I was addicted to friends. I became addicted to marijuana. I became addicted to fast money. I became addicted to having girlfriends. I became addicted to a lot of things.
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't realize that they have an addictive personality until it's too late.
Absolutely.
Too late.
Absolutely.
So Monroe, speak to us briefly about the effects that you being away had on your daughter, because you've been out for how long now?
4 years.
For 4 years. How is your relationship with your daughter now?
It's rocky at best. When your kid knows you as a financial provider, but not an intimate person, that's who you become. When I came home, I wasn't with my daughter's mother, and I'm still not with her to this day. So there's a resentment there. Why not my mom? Why not my mom? Why isn't my mom good enough? Why aren't you with my mom?
So mom is not having a conversation with her or speaking about the situation with her.
I can't speak to that. I really can't say, Kim.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I would be telling you a lie because I don't know what the conversation consists of. She hasn't had it with me around. So when she's mad about me not being with her mother, I've explained it to her over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, when I came home, she was 15. So now she's 19 and she has a kid.
Okay.
So what can I tell her at this point? I can be supportive. I can try to be an example. But at this point, I've started being a person of action. So this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm not doing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if she's always receptive to that because our relationship isn't getting any tighter.
How do you deal with her anger issues with you, though, for being away for so long?
You can't force her to do anything at this point.
Mm-hmm.
With her being a young adult, I can't say, well, you're going to go to counseling, you're going to go to therapy, because again, these things aren't free.
Yeah.
I do work for the state now,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been scraping and clawing trying to get back into the groove of being a productive society person.
Mm-hmm. Have you had that heart-to-heart with her to validate her anger and her feelings and validate how she feels by you? Because to her, it's still, regardless of how you left or whatever, it's still a form of abandonment.
Yes.
So there are messages she received as well by not having you in her life. So of course she's going to deal with anger and resentment and hatred, and now you're with someone else. Have you had that heart-to-heart with her to perhaps maybe apologize for not being there and try to validate how she actually feels?
I've had several conversations, multiple. I mean, we communicate, but I'm not sure that she's always willing to say, okay, Dad, this is your truth. This is what you said. I don't know if the apology will ever be good enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to a point, and I can be honest about this, where I'm done apologizing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My actions led me to abandoning you. My new actions are trying to show you that I'm going to be here for you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I can't work on that any longer because I worked on it for 15 years and I'm continuing to work upon it. So I've had conversations and I'm hoping and praying that she'll eventually become more receptive.
Yeah.
Right.
But I have to let her take the step.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can continue to be supportive. I can continue to take the heat. Whatever she says, I'll take the heat. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I would hope that she'll find some forgiveness for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know, Kim, for the long haul, what that looks like.
Yes.
But I will continue to be
But you're
available.
still available.
I'll be available. I'll be transparent. I'll be accountable. I'll be accepting. However, I can only say sorry so many times.
Yeah, and you definitely don't need to keep saying you're sorry. You've already said that.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
main thing is just making sure that you are there. And you mentioned prayer, which is very powerful. You can chase her down with prayer if she doesn't want to be bothered.
Right.
But understand that 15 years and growing up without dad is a long time. So saying I'm sorry won't just fix it right then. It may take a while for her to come around.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you can do, maybe simple things like drop her a card in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
You was just on my mind today, or an encouraging text, just so you're constantly dropping it, not looking for any response.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can never be responsible for people's response or reaction to us. What we do from our heart. Now, how they receive us is going to be on them. So I would say to definitely continue to work on that process, letting her know that she was not forgotten, that I am there for you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We want you to stay here because we are going to take questions from the audience too. Let's give it up for Mr. Monroe one more time. At this time, I would like to introduce, this is one of my sons. His name is Thompson. Andre is going to come and he's going to share with us his experience as the abandoned child. Let's give it up for him, Mr. Andre. Andre, thank you so so much. And I know that this is not an easy task to be able to talk about your abandonment issues. You and I have spoke before, and I understand that you were not really just abandoned by dad, you was abandoned by mom also. So, Andre, speak to us a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, my upbringing was, I was raised primarily by my grandmother. My mother was young, she was 15, 16 when she had me. Very young time. My dad was 18, they were young teenagers and not sure what they were going to do. So my grandmother stepped in and took control of the whole entire situation with that. And in the process, my mother had time to develop who she was as a teenager and grow up. And me coming on underneath that roof, under that upbringing, my grandma was old school. So I grew up around a lot of older adults, so kind of I grew up a little bit fast, and I had a chance to.
Are you saying grandma was strict?
Oh, she's old school, yeah. So I grew up in the church a lot, and that my upbringing was really just church and school. So and my mother, she had a chance to develop who she was. Like I was saying, my father went on to the Coast Guard. Don't have much communication with him when he left, but he hadn't had the same sense. And for me, I always had this feeling of what was wrong with me. Why didn't they at least stay to see me grow up? So my upbringing was like I always cling to my grandmother and my faith with God.
Yes. Well, let me ask you, because as I was speaking about how our adult experiences manifest, our childhood experiences manifest in our adult life. How has that impacted you as an adult?
It took a lot for me to get to where I am now. For a couple of years, I dealt with a lot of abandonment issues. I felt isolated. I felt alone. Even though I had people around me, I had friends, I had other family members, I always felt like I didn't fit in.
Yes.
Because everybody had their own little set family, but I didn't have, like, it was just me and my grandmother, and she worked 3 jobs, so it was kind of like a lot of times, I mean, like a babysitter or somebody else's house, and they're having family time, and I'm like, well, I don't fit into that because they're not really my family, so I'm gonna be over here in the corner and do my own thing. So it took a lot for me to develop that confidence in myself. And a lot of times what I would do is, as I got into my teenage years, one thing I always was taught is like, hurt people will hurt people.
Yes.
And I noticed a lot of the activity that I was doing is I would hurt, I would lash out at other people, I would crack jokes on people, make fun of other people just because I was hurt internally. And growing up, it was like, okay, I noticed it about myself. I know now some people are starting to alienate themselves from me. So the very thing I'm afraid of is now happening to me.
Yes.
How do I stop that? And then it really hit me when I had kids. Had my son, I was like, I have to break the cycle.
Yes.
My mom's not here, my dad's not here. I have to stop this now. So it took a lot for me to be, all right, what can I do to stop it? So it took a lot of prayer. A lot of times I would do is self-affirmations. I would look in the mirror and say, you are worthy, you are more than valuable.
Yes.
It's not, they had situations going on when they were young, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And I don't want my kids going through what I went through. So I'm like, I have to kind of, in a sense, step up to the plate. It's hard. It's really hard because in today's society, the black man is automatically put down and is not worth it. You see so many things in the headline news. Black men don't want to take care of their father, they don't take care of their kids. They're criminals. I'm like, I don't want to be that stick.
That's right.
And it was very hard because there was temptations out there like, yeah, you can come over here and do this, you can come over and do that. I'm like, I don't want to do that because I want to be more for my kids. The whole time, I want to be more for my kids. Now, I know there are some areas that I slacked at, but I feel like as long as I keep trying, don't give up, I can get it. So growing up, coming up as a man, like now, I'm at a place now, it's like, I want to be more, I want to be an example. So as an adult, as a man now, it's like, you know what? Don't let that anger, don't let depression overcome you, and just keep trying. Right?
So do you feel like you're emotionally healed now?
Part of me is. A lot of me is. I actually had a conversation with my mother after years of anger and resentment of her, because she had my brother and my sister, and she raised them but didn't raise me. And it's like, I had a conversation with her about it, and we actually got to a place where we can now have an understanding of where she was at and where I am now. And it's like, we just had that moment, and it's like, relieving feeling.
Yes, yes. It's very important that, and I know that it's hard for us to go back to that parent to be able to talk about how we feel. I know that's very hard. So what he did was very bold, but it's honorable that you was able to have that conversation. But I just encourage you that if you don't feel like you can go to your parents and have this conversation, that you at least write it down. You have to get it out of your spirit and get it onto paper and write it down, or you can come in to see a therapist, like myself, so that you can get it out of it's better out than it is left in. And one other point you said, you didn't want to continue this cycle and you felt yourself pushing away. And this is one thing that abandoned adults will do, is that they have a fear to get attached to other people. They don't want to connect because what they have seen role model before them, that don't work. There's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of pain in that. So I'm going to steer clear. I'm going to build this wall. And then a lot of times what we do is sabotage relationships. We kind of want it, and then we get there, but then we get scared and we pull back. So we sabotage relationships. So thank you for sharing that. So you had a conversation with mom, and you feel that you're getting healed in that area, or is it still a process?
We had a moment where we cried, we laughed, and then we got to that place where I forgive you for everything that happened in the past. If we can't change it and reflect on it, all it does is bring up old feelings of hurt. Let's take today and just move forward. I know it's going to be a process, but the more time we spend together, the more we learn who we are, because how I was as a child is not how I am now.
Yeah.
So I'm a new person, completely different than how I was back then. It's so I took that, it's because she was hurt too when she was coming up.
Okay.
Because she went through the same.
She's 15
Yeah,
too.
she was going through the same thing that I was going through with her mother and her father.
Okay.
And it's like I want to stop. So today we're going to stop it. I forgive you. Let's move forward. And in having that conversation, there was some healing.
Yes.
And it's I thank God for that one, because for so many years I never thought I could ever have a conversation with her. And I was so angry, why can't I just talk to my mother?
Yes.
Why can I not just talk to my parents about things I'm going through?
Yes.
I can't talk to nobody else about it, so I'm just going to hold it in. And then other
And
people
that's
get my anger, and then I was you know what? All right, Lord, I'm putting this in your hands. I'm going to be brave enough. Even if I get rejected, I'm going to still try.
That's awesome.
And stepping up and just...
So what about your siblings? Now, your mom raised them, but she didn't raise you. Did you have any jealousy towards them?
Yeah, I did. Me, my brother, we had this running joke. I call him my mom's angel child, because he always getting all the special treatment. What about me? He getting new shoes and new clothes. What about me? And because that's from a child's perspective, I didn't understand the situation that was going on. When I was a kid, she wasn't around me, and she didn't have money to buy everything for me. So of course, I wouldn't get all that because she didn't have to get it. And me becoming older and my brother coming up, he needs it more than I do. I had a job. I was coming up, a little kid. I was always trying to find some kind of way to make some kind of money, either just cutting grass or something.
Yeah. So but it sounds like you had to come to that understanding.
Yeah, and me and my brother, I love my brother dearly. I love my siblings dearly, but for me, it's always a rivalry. Who's the best out of mom's kids? So it's for me, it's okay. I'm gonna let you know that hey, you mom's angel child, because she's always treating you. But now it's that's my homie, that's my brother, that's my best friend. My little sister, I'm just trying to guide her, just knowing that what mom's been through, because she's in her teenagers now.
Yeah.
She's giving mom a hard time. I'm she's been through some stuff. You kind of take a step back and see where she came from, to see where she is now, and understand that you got it better than how we had.
Yeah.
Be grateful.
Yeah. So what have you done to repair the void that Dad left in your heart?
That's a hard one, because there's still that void there. Even to this day, I still feel like what would it have been like to have my father around. I get told all the time I look just like my father, I act like my father, my mannerisms is everything like him. And I things that I'm doing now, I'm working on my own production company called Maze Productions, and it's I would have loved for my father to see where I am now.
Yes.
For him to be a part, to see his grandkids, how my son looks like me, I look like him, it's the trio, and I just look at other people and I was man, I wish I could just go back to my dad and ask for some advice. So it's kind of like there's that void of where do I get that male perspective on how to be a father?
Sure.
Where do I get that male perspective on how to handle certain situations? And I always go back to, all right, God, I need you to guide me on this because I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've forgiven him?
I've forgiven him, but there is some parts of me as I want to know what kind of hurt was he dealing with to make him want to leave and stay on.
Mm-hmm. So what's the message, though, that you received from him leaving?
The message I got is I don't want to be like that. I want to be more in my family's life, more in my grandmother's life, more in my kids' life, than whatever he's dealing with, that's a personal issue that he's gonna have to come to terms with. But for me, it's like, you know what? It's not about me. It's about I have a son, I have a daughter, and my grandmother who raised me is missing her son, and she feels like, what did I do to have my son just leave?
Yeah.
And like she's dealing with that, and it's like, okay, I have to step up and kind of be like replacing my father as her son. I became her son.
And I think that it's very important for us to have understanding of the way that our parents were. Where did they come from as far as their behaviors and their treatment? Who were their parents? How did their parents treat them? Because an individual can only go as far as what they've been taught. They can only go as far as the behaviors that were role modeled before them. No, they may not have been loving, nurturing in their own way, but they provided, they took care, you know what I mean? So we have to be able to understand why we got what we got. And that's where the forgiveness piece comes in, because now I understand that grandpa was very mean, mom, grandmother wasn't around. So therefore, it constructed our parents to be such a way. So we have to, the understanding is critical in forgiveness. Now understand that we may not always be privy to have that understanding. So the bottom line is forgiveness does work. So whether we get that understanding or not, it's going to be up to us to be able to let go. And forgiveness is not negating the situation. It's not negating the abuse, but forgiveness is the ability to let go of the intense emotions that are associated with the experience. So I let go of the anger. I let go of the hatred and the resentment from mom, dad walking out on me or not being emotionally available for me. All right, thank you so much. Let's give it up for Andre Thompson. Thank you for being transparent.